Kaiju meets body horror in James Harren's UltraMega. Hey comic freaks, and welcome back to Dangerous Comics. I'm your host, Dane Georges, and today we're looking at UltraMega by James Harren. So it's October, it's the spooky season, and all this month I'm checking out some of my favorite horror books. And what better than UltraMega, which is a kaiju body horror comic. So this book was published by Image Comics, specifically the imprint Skybound, which is Robert Kirkman's imprint. This book actually came out March 2021 and was originally a 4-part series. I've got the 4 issues here. They're 4 oversized issues. I believe the first issue was 60 pages and the rest were around 40. All had amazing covers. You see this 3rd issue was by Ryan Ottley. They had other great covers by Trad Moore. And I really wanted to take a look at this book because we are very lucky that this book is actually back now. September 18th, book 5 actually came out to start a new arc of this. So it's been a little bit on hiatus as James Harren works on continuing this series. So far, he's got 5, 6, 7, and 8 planned. So we got 4 more issues coming our way. And I thought it'd be a great time to look at the first arc. Now, what is really special about this book, too, is that this is James Harren's first attempt at writing a comic. You might know his other creator-owned book that he did, Rubble. He's also well known for his work on BPRD and other freelance work for Marvel and DC. Check out these back covers, too. I think he's just creating a really awesome full package. I love the square-bound book. I remember when this first came out, it's like $7.99. I feel like that intimidated me at first. I was like, oh, that's too much for a comic. But there's a lot of great content in here. It's packed to the brim, and it is just a very awesome, full impact, foot on the gas kind of story. And we get a great editorial in the back kind of informing a little bit of James' thought process as he's starting this book. He says, I don't know much about it, but I love this genre. A colorful giant humanoid wrestling hand-to-hand with giant tumorous dinosaurs dipped in abstract art over a slate gray urban landscape. It's a glorious image. For whatever reason, I felt it necessary to take this image of fun adolescent goof-em-ups and combine it with body horror and the grotesque consequences of power and human frailty. I wonder how it'll turn out. So really cool editorial to start off, kind of giving us what James is thinking as he's approaching this book. So we have James Harren is creator, artist, writer. We have Dave Stewart is colorist, and Russ Wooten is letterer. We start out with, it's here, a virus, a plague, indiscriminate in who will be its host and who its prey will be after that. Left unchallenged, it will spread, it will grow and grow. And just amazing cartooning right from the start. I love this guy's transforming. We get this page turn that we see that this cosmic being sitting on this eyeball is talking to this human, and he's kind of offering him up, hey, there's this cosmic plague. We need some hosts to fight and defend your world. What say you, man? And he says, K. He says, this holds our power. And so he gives him this shard with the eye, and it kind of combines with this man. And he wakes up, he's sleeping on the couch. He's like, was that just a dream? But he's got this thing on his chest. Also just great storytelling right from the start. We see that he's sleeping on the couch. We see his wife in the other room, kind of telling us more and more about this character. We get this setup of this guy becoming a hero and getting a little bit more of his backstory, that he was a wrestler, lost his wrestling gig when he lost to the new contender, became a janitor, got replaced by a robot, and then now he's become this new protector. He's UltraMega. And then we learn more that some other people were also confronted or given this opportunity by this alien. We have Stefan Meyer and Ern. And we see right from the start that Stefan kind of came under fire from one of these kaijus and lost a hand, but he's this robotics whiz. And we see that Ern, when he was presented with it, kind of had a big accident happen or something happened, and we're going to slowly learn kind of more about these two, but our main point of focus is Jason, this main character here. And we see that he is covered in goo, and he's at the supermarket, and he sees this woman walking, and she kind of catches his attention. And Something that we learn is that these kaiju are activated. It's kind of like a virus that's like sitting in individuals, and they're activated when the UltraMega is around. So the UltraMegas kind of have to police the area and make sure that these kaiju are taken care of, but they're also kind of the reason that the kaijus are activated. So it's a little bit of a double-edged sword. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Look at this double page splash. This is amazing. But just this destruction, cars flying. This is what you want on a kaiju book. Obviously, UltraMega, there is a lot of reference and a lot of love here for Ultraman. And it's kind of similar to where Ultraman would have ultras. So there was multiple of the Ultramen that would kind of be, they were like an alien race that would protect planets against kaiju. So there are some similarities here in that kind of storytelling and even the design. Like, he's got like kind of this fin looking head. But taking that and just pushing it to the extreme of body horror. And so he's fighting like this like snake worm kaiju. And he saved the kid that was with the mom, get him to safety, but then gets hit by this tendril, and we see that it's attached to this larger monster, and the monster's saying, must make ready for queen, little things, eat them all for you, my queen. And wow, just amazing, amazing monster designs. And like I said, Dave Stewart's colors are just on point here. Here's our bad guy from the back cover. She's standing up with the little worm coming out of her mouth, but going after all the humans, and we see that her goal is to become like this giant ball of like pickled humans for her queen. But UltraMega is going to stop that, bites onto his hand, but he's able to do a mega beam and blow the crap out of this monster. Love this like kind of like Kirby kind of tech design in the arm. So getting a little bit more and more of like what the UltraMega's powers are, what they're capable of, but takes out this kaiju, and once the threat is defeated and when the kaiju is gone, he's able to turn back into a human as well. So both are causing an equal reaction. Love this 4-panel sequence as he's shrinking back down. He's calling his wife because he's late to get home. He was at the supermarket to get a toy for his kid, but duty called in the meantime. And we get this really funny beat that like he shrunk down, but his head didn't finish shrinking all the way. So really great cartooning, really great storytelling. Love this balance of visual horror and comedy, panel to panel. It's amazing. We got this guy dropping food off for this lady at her house. She looks like she's not really leaving very much. Got her creepy kid in the background. I love this shot from behind as we're seeing that maybe there's something going on with this lady, that she's not what she appears to be. And we see she's kind of like made up of like these like worm-like creatures. But he leaves and he's saying like how bad it smells in there. We start to hear mother. So there's something downstairs, something lurking down there. And as she turns, she drops the food, and we see that the food is just going rotten. So they're not even eating what he's bringing. And then she walks by that thing that was standing in as the kid just falls apart and kind of like goes back to her as like these little worms. She kind of like looks like this like Medusa kind of monster. She says, "Coming, son." A little bit more world building from one of the other Ultramegas. We have Stefan Myers, residents here. Kind of a little bit of more of a socialite than Jason. And we see that he's like having this like cult, like Illuminati kind of party. And there's like a funny little joke here about this bear being like the bear from The Shining. We go back to Jason, and he sees this woman that he took down on the street, and she seems to be dead. He's covering her back up, but when he does, her eyes open, and she has this message for him about what you cast into the dark grows, Jason. It's time to meet your son, Jason. And whoa. What an awesome splash as these like monstrous worms just start pouring out of her mouth. Oh, it's amazing. But she falls back down, so there's kind of like someone speaking through her, and he runs away and he says, Lilith. So he knows who she was talking about. And we cut back to our mother and start to think that maybe that's who he's talking about. And some really cool just scene building as she goes under the house, and it's just like this big cavernous pit, and she's walking over to her son on the wall, and we see that something is growing down there, something massive. We're getting lots of like parallels. We like got this woman and her son. She said it was his birthday. Jason's son, it's also his birthday. His wife is waiting for him to get home. Where the hell are you, Jason? But Jason is rushing over to Lilith. This is Jason in the past here, and he's looking at his white-haired wife, and we see that his current wife is a brunette, so we see that, he did have a relationship before, not really knowing everything about it yet. See, there's a crib in the background, so there's a child in this picture too. She looks like she might be pregnant. He looks at her with fear, and he's thinking about this moment as he gets to the house. When he gets there, His head is still enlarged. I love that it still hasn't really shrunken down. And we see that what was under the house has now broken free. He says, shit. I love that, like his eyes just popping out of his sockets. And this crack in the ground kind of starts spreading. We see rats are starting to run. They're kind of like running from something. They go by Ern, one of our other Ultra Megas, and we kind of see like a little bit of that world building that Ultra Mega are seen as like heroes, or at least our main guy Jason is. He's trying to race this like seismic event that's going toward the city, and as he's driving, the ground breaks under him and makes him crash his car. Gets out of the wreckage, and we see our two other Ultra Megas. We have Ern and Steven. And they're saying, want to tell us what's going on, Jason? Here's where we get the reveal of his past, that when he looked at his wife, he sees that his wife is actually growing a kaiju baby inside her, and she's infected as well. He runs out of the house as soon as he can to try to avoid any kind of transformation, whether on his end or hers. So he just rushes out before anything can happen. Steven is saying, we've never neglected an infected host for that long. And so he's saying that he probably still caused something to kind of kick off, even if it wasn't a full development. And so the three power up with each other, and they're going to have to face off on Jason's big mistake. And this gigantic hand comes breaking from underground. Our three heroes look up. Now we start to get this cutting back and forth of all the citizens in the city starting to react to this kaiju. It's definitely one of the bigger kaiju attacks they've had, and you can tell that people are starting to get kind of freaked out. And the fight is just getting bigger and bigger. His current wife is trying to leave with their son, and they're seeing that like there's just people on the ground, and they're not dead. Why are they down? And his wife says, it's the concussion from the fight. It's knocked them out cold. This is what happens when gods fight. And so the kaiju fight is in full effect, and her taxi driver just dips out. He's too scared, and he runs away. And right then, a big old arm is just thrown at the citizens. Cut to morning, and we see that Steven's Ultra Mega form is impaled on top of this building. His entrails are just wrapped around, and we finally see the biggest kaiju that they fought, smiling as he's eating this foot. Such a great design. I love that he's got like the normal mouth and then the skull mouth. His son, this is his like kaiju son, is like consumed his foot. So he is just like wrecking these Ultra Megas. They are not really standing a chance to this guy. This is where Ern kind of reveals, what was going on in that first scene where we saw him get the powers. So we see here that something was going on with Ern. He lost his eye when he got his powers, and there's blood everywhere. And we see here Ern is telling us that eyeball from the dream made it sound so simple. My 5-year-old son was sleeping next to me when I woke up. I saw what you saw, Jason. Jason says, Ern, I didn't know. I've been gone for so long, exploring this wretched power. It has depths. Do you buy it? That eyeball bastard's story? You think we're made of something different than this thing? Ern is really kind of opening up what this story could be. Who's the good guy? Who's the bad guy? We're just kind of blindly trusting this dream that there is a good and bad. But then we kind of see in this next page that Ern is able to tap into something that kind of starts to transform him from what is more hero to kaiju and attacks the monster. And we kind of think that he's got the leg up. He's like doing this like kind of like Godzilla atomic breath on him. But as he's doing it, the monster's son just grabs him by the face and just throws him like he was nothing. And so he just knocks him out, says, shall we, father? Would you like to finally name me? I like Kaiju Prince. Dear mother has suggestions. Reckoning. Endbringer. Judgment. And then Ern runs back and he says, Ultra Body Bomb, detonate. And we see that the Kaiju Prince has a smile, and all he does is just grab Ern, throws him up into the sky, and just wastes his explosion. Doesn't even affect him, and all it really does is just pour blood all over the city. Jason is also pretty beat up. He's also cut open, his guts are spilling out, and the Kaiju Prince starts to grab at him, pulling him toward him. And right at the last second, Jason's pulling out the eye from his chest, the thing that he bonded with and gave him his powers. And he takes it in his hand and he does a Ultra Mega fist launch. And he launches his fist into the ground to save the power for a more worthy host. And in the next moment, the Kaiju Prince punches him so hard that his head goes flying into outer space. What a cool spread, too, as that head just is flying all the way up there. Now we get some quieter moments after all this action. We kind of get back to what the citizens are dealing with, and after this big hit, we start getting a rain of blood. What would it be like to have creatures this big actually fighting and dying and bleeding? And we see here Jason has fallen down on the city. The buildings are collapsing and blood is just pouring out of him. It's like a river, a tidal wave, a hurricane of blood almost. And we see that it's just pouring through the streets. And now the people don't even need to just get away from the kaiju. They need to run away from the blood that's coming toward them. And we get this really sad moment as the mom is trying to get away from this blood, and she's taking her son, Noah, and she sacrifices herself at the very last minute, pushing her son above so he can breathe. The blood is now hard. It's hardened. It's scabbed over. It's like it's clotted now. That's what blood's going to do, and it's buried everyone underneath. His own wife gets trapped, but she was able to save Noah and push him above to safety. And Noah's crying, gets rescued. And we kind of just see how society starts to change here. So over 3/4 of the city was demolished or drowned. The kaiju prince disappears and we're left with just the mayhem, and that the UltraMegas were not able to save them. Luckily, Steven is still around. He was already building robots, and now he's building UltraMega like mechs. So we're going to have a new defense around because the society now thinks they can't really rely on their heroes, and society starts to change as a whole after this event. They start to round up anyone that is thought to have the kaiju virus, and they start to put them outside the walls of the city. They get this device that can read if you've been affected or not, and they start to put them outside the city. And this is where the story starts to take on after this. I love comics like this that can set up such an amazing idea, such a big world, and then change it all by the end of the story. Like, you think you're getting one thing at all of this bit of the story, and then by the last 5 pages, James has set up like this apocalyptic Mad Max kind of world where the world is forever changed after the events of this fight. So just huge stakes of this kaiju battle. This isn't just Godzilla rampaging through Tokyo and then them rebuilding it the next year. This is like people are forever changed. And we're seeing there's people outside the city, they're giving them rations and stuff, but overall, they are not living the same life they were before. And we start to set up this whole dichotomy of people that are supporting what was UltraMega, and then another group of people that are the Kaiju clan that are kind of saying, you made us monsters, we're going to be monsters. So new protectors and new villains. So, whoa. I just think that's such a great setup. And where could this story go? It goes some amazing places. So if you thought this was fun, the story just gets crazier. I think he does something really amazing with diverting and changing our expectations of where the story is going to go. This is not just an Ultraman story. This becomes a lot of other things as it goes. And as you can see with cover 2, we have that new UltraMega that wants to kind of reclaim the legacy, and maybe the UltraMega will come back. He shot that eye into the ground. What could happen with that? Really plants a lot of seeds in this first issue. So if this grabbed your interest, if you thought this was fun, please check out the first volume of UltraMega. You can check it out right now. And if you get caught up, please check out the next volume, which is UltraMega 5 through 8. A lot of great stuff was set up in issue 4, so I can't wait to see where he keeps going with it. And if you're a comic freak like me, and this wet your whistle and you're thirsty for some more comics, well, why not check out some of my books? I'm a self-published cartoonist. You can find my work at danegeorges.com. I do a series called Doomskull, which is about an ex-supervillain that works at a grocery store with his minion Bag Boy. I've got 3 issues of that in print with a 4th on the way. You can also check out X-Ray, which is a collection of my 4-panel webcomics that I post on Webtoons, Tapastic, and Instagram, as well as black and white zines like Jigglybub, Sleepless Sights, and The Passenger. You can find all this and more at danegeorges.com, which I'll have linked in the description below. But thank you so much for checking out this video. If you liked UltraMega, check out some of the other episodes I have on the channel. I post a new episode every Wednesday, so you're sure to find something you like. And consider subscribing so you don't miss a single episode. But until next time, remember to think and read dangerously.